Well, Valiant GM here with the first long-form video. Today, I want to, thank all the 100 subscribers, the 100 people of you that have subscribed to this channel. Thank you so much for doing so. For today's video, I wanted to do something fun. I wanted to make a monster. I wanted to make a legendary fire elemental creature for your games if you so choose to use them. Now for the foundation of this fire elemental creature, I'm going to be using the basic rules fire elemental and then building from there. I know there are a lot of legendary elemental creatures out there, what have you, and I'm not saying this is the only way to do it or the best way to do it. This is just how I tend to do it. When I sit down to prep a monster, this is how I do it. Now, I look back to the game of 5e to kind of be inspired by or to find new ways of doing things. And in this case, I am looking at the subclass of Druid, the Circle of Wildfire. But before we look at abilities, we need to look at the three main things on the stat block. And that is your stats, your armor class, and your hit points. The basic rules of a fire elemental have it where the dexterity and the constitution are the highest stats, with the other ones falling on the lower side. So I stick with that here. The hit points, I'm going to be going up to 16d10 plus 64, which has an average of 152 hit points with a maximum of 224 hit points. And then the armor class is going to be 16 because 10 plus your dexterity modifier, which in this case is plus 6. So there we go, we have those three, and now let's get to the fun part of looking at the abilities. Now, I want to also throw out there that this creature is going to be huge instead of large. Now, fire form on the stat block is going to be staying the same. If a creature hits it, it's going to be taking some damage. It can move through a space of 1 inch, and it can engulf a creature. Remember that it's huge now, so it can engulf quite a few people. However, I am going to be changing, instead of 1d10, it's going to be 2d8 to up that average damage of about 9. Because this is a legendary creature, so we're upping some damage here. Illumination is now going to be out to 60 feet instead of 30, and I'm keeping that 30 feet of dim light. I'm also going to be keeping that weakness to water, but instead of 5 feet for cold damage, it's going to be 10 feet for 1 cold damage. Because this creature is huge, it's burning hot, it's spicy, it's not really going to be as affected by water as maybe a large fire elemental creature. Now I am going to be adding a fire healing to this stat block. If this creature takes fire damage, instead of being damaged by the fire, it will heal for that amount. So for example, if it takes 10 fire damage, it's actually going to heal 10 hit points. Now I know probably not a lot of people are going to be striking a fire elemental with fire, but we'll get there. I am going to be adding a recharge ability because a lot of legendary creatures have recharge abilities. In this case, a fireball can go off centered on this creature. It can use an action, and out to 30 feet around it, everyone needs to make a dexterity saving throw or take 8d6 fire damage. It can recharge on a 5 or a 6 on a d6. Now with the basic attack of this creature, it is a touch attack, but because our dexterity is increased and our proficiency bonus is now +4, it's going to be a +10 to hit. I'm also upping the damage. It's going to be 2d10 plus 6 for an average of 17. I am also going to be keeping, if it hits a creature, they burst into flame and are now on fire. Instead of 1d10, it's now 2d8 fire damage at the start of their turn. Now, I'm also going to have some fun. I want to add a little bit more than just attacks on this creature. I want to add some fire spells to this legendary fire creature. However, these are just going to be inherent abilities. They are spell-like effects. They're not actually going to be spells. So no casters at your party can counterspell these. I'm going to be adding the Burning Hands and Scorching Ray spells to this stat block. I'm going to be making Constitution the spellcasting modifier of this legendary creature. So to hit, it will be a +8, and the DC is going to be a 16. Now, I get it, these are not going to be doing as much damage as the touch attacks. However, I think I do want to keep if a creature gets hit by this, they will still burst into flame. And I think that'll help some of the damage. Now, I can see a lot of you going, this is a lot of fire damage. And to that, I would say, yeah, that's kind of the point. This is a legendary fire elemental creature. This is not a random encounter. If you are around to this creature, you take fire damage. If you hit this creature, you take fire damage. if this creature hits you, lots of fire damage. You are not going to be walking away from this fight without being burned, because that's kind of how it should be. Now, let's talk legendary actions. This is where I'm going to have some fun and bring up the Circle of Wildflower. Flower?
I would like to be a Circle of Wildflower.
Circle of Wildflower. I like it. The Circle of Wildfire has it where you can summon a fire spirit. It even comes with a little stat block that you as a dungeon master could very easily get your hands on. And I'm going to be pretty much leaving it the same with a couple changes. As a legendary action, this fire elemental can summon within 30 feet a fire spirit. When it is summoned in a 10-foot radius, creatures need to make a dexterity saving throw or take 2d6 fire damage. It also has a ranged attack, and then it can teleport, and then in a smaller 5-foot radius, dex save to take 1d6 for both of those. Here is where I'm going to be changing it up a little bit. As one legendary action, it can summon one, or it can use all three to summon 3 of them, to a maximum of 3. You can have no more than 3 of these at a time. Now, I personally don't really want to keep track of hit points on these creatures. I kind of like to think of them as minions, so if these creatures take any damage other than fire, they are destroyed. They have 1 hit point. Now here is where I want to get sneaky. If you recall, I gave the fire elemental a fire healing ability. So if these creatures are summoned within 10 feet of the fire elemental, it can get 2d6 healing. And I also like the idea of instead of it attacking other players, it totally could do that, but it also could shoot at the fire elemental, healing it 1d6 plus 4. I almost like to think of these little guys as like support turrets. They can either do damage or heal. I also think you as a game master could have the most creativity with this ability. If you want, you don't have to have it be a maximum of 3. If you also would like to keep track of the hit points, you totally could do that. It is up to you on how difficult you want to make this ability. And I hope you have fun, and please be responsible. As for the other 2 legendary actions, I had the idea of playing off that illumination idea. If a creature has a direct line of sight with the elemental creature, it can use a legendary action to become so bright they have to make a Constitution saving throw or be blinded until the end of their next turn. And for the last legendary action, it can move its full movement. Because this creature can damage with its movement by engulfing a creature, this movement does trigger opportunity attacks. So get your sentinel attacks ready. Now, again, I know this is a lot of fire damage, but I want to reiterate that this is not supposed to be a random encounter. This is something that your players probably should be prepping for. And there are a lot of ways to negate fire damage. If they have enough gold, they can get potions and magical items. Not to mention some Dragonborn and Tieflings already get fire resistances. And casters get access to the banishment spell by level 7, so maybe save that legendary resistances for that spell. I hope this gives you a fun creature to use in your games, or at the very least give you some ideas to use. For me, I think I would use a creature like this that is guarding something important. Maybe it's a portal of some kind, or the Vault of the King, or even a legendary conjuration wizard has summoned it to fight on their behalf. Whatever that you decide to use this creature for, please use it responsibly. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.